everyone. So this video is going to be a response to Fickle who commented on my video, Attachment and Authenticity Explained. So I really love the points that he touched on. What he commented was, or what they, I'm not trying to assume anyone's gender here, what they commented on was agree 100% on the Bible and fear. This is why I stopped believing after so long. I'm glad you phrased it that way. I'm glad you phrased it that way because it makes me want to re-explore the idea of God or something like it. In terms of follow your heart, I think it's just one tool in the arsenal of finding your own way. The reason is that emotions are predicted on information, and sometimes our information is bad. Also, sometimes you have to do something that feels wrong in the short term, but is ultimately for the best. Example, putting your dog down. And I love this comment so much because they make a very valid point. I'm sorry. I am getting a masculine energy apparently. Okay. They make a very valid point. And questions like, or the comments like these, I love so much because these are things that I subconsciously know and have worked my understanding out already, but it's so subconscious to me that I forget to mention these things. Put yourself as if you're training someone. You've done your job for 5-6 years, and now you're training someone who is completely green. These little things that are second nature to you, they tend to come up during those times when you're training someone who's completely green. Things that we kind of put into our subconscious mind. So thank you for this comment. Following your heart, yes. When I mean following your heart, though, I don't mean leading from an emotional space. There's a time and a place to be emotional. As harsh as that sounds. Going back in my childhood, I was on my own at 13, like I've said before in previous videos. And I was in a very male-dominated field, per se. You could say that. So it was don't speak unless spoken to. Trust isn't given, it's earned. And me being as young as I was, I had to learn really quick. So the quieter I was, the more I observed, the better off I was to understand the dynamics of the group, which means that I didn't identify necessarily with the dynamics of the group. However, I knew who I had to be to gain traction in that group, without disrespecting myself. And yeah, that's the best way I can explain it. So I cut off the emotional side of things really quickly. And if I could go back, I would have created a safe space for myself to be emotional, aside from when I was away from everybody. I wouldn't just like go like all in, like completely intellectualize and individualize myself away from emotion and cut off my intuition and things like that. So what I mean by let your heart be your moral compass. Don't let it be your judgment of a bias. The information that you get, yes, 100%. You can't assume it's always good, but you can't assume it's always bad. So what if we took away the bad? What if we took away the terms good and bad and we just looked at it from a place of information? Because we're not identifying with it, right? It's not about us. It's about the information here. Take the emotion out of it for a minute. Look at yourself from the bird's eye point of view, like as if you're observing, and simplify it. Don't get it all messy. You know, when things are too messy, your brain's gonna explode with emotions, and it's gonna feel defensive. It's gonna feel sad, and all you really needed was a hug. Like and it's okay. It's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. It's a personal battle. No one said that it was going to be easy. And then the second part that you touched on that I wanted to go into. Oh, yes. Okay. So sometimes our information is bad. Also, sometimes we have to do something that feels wrong in the short term, but is ultimately for the best. So, loving through detachment. That is the definition of loving through detachment. And there's different levels of it. So, different forms, just like acceptance. We're constantly faced with acceptance every single day. Things that we have no control over. We have to accept that into our being. We get to embrace what is and what always was and let it be. Yeah. Loving through detachment isn't the easiest lesson to go through. Walking away from something or someone you love is sometimes for the best for yourself and also for whatever else, if it's an object though. So the thing about loving through detachment when it comes down to objects or, you know, breaking that, getting rid of things, hoarding, you got to look at every aspect and you got to look at the whole picture in those situations because I bet you that person is feeling a loss of control at some point in their life or in every other aspect of their life. Hence why they're latching onto something with their like for the dear love of God, they cannot let go of it. And that usually is an indicator that someone feels out of control. And that's all they got. That's all they got to hold on to. So loving through detachment also goes with releasing control. And finding your own way. Finding your own way comes a lot with it is being in control. If you think about it, like the actual base of it, finding your own way is being in control of who you are and what you think. So if you are a control freak and you find yourself attached to these objects, to a story, to a set of people or whatever it is, whatever you may be so attached to, like, are you really in control? Is the question. No, because you have other things telling you what you need to be, not who you want to be in your heart. And that's what I mean. You think you want these things in your heart, but it's an attachment. You're actually just so attached to it that you've convinced yourself in your heart that this is what you want. And that's where things start to get really messy, and that's where contradiction gets into place. Like, no one said that this was going to be easy living an authentic life. I'll say that I was pretty lucky because I didn't have all this convoluted pre-induced standards to be living up to. So my biggest issues were my self-worth. That's what I had to overcome when it came down to letting go of attachments. And I'm not going to say that felt good. I mean, but it wasn't the worst thing that I went through. I had a lot more worse emotional pain than that. Probably like the second worst, okay? The second worst. Okay, well, I hope this explains that a little bit more. These are very valid points. And it comes down to your heart is your moral compass, not your indicator of what information is good or bad. Remove good and bad and look at things as information. There's no such thing as good and bad. Putting a bias on things, too messy, too messy. And loving through detachment, different stages of loving through detachment. This is the steps towards authenticity. It's the deconstruction of who you are and who you truly want to be. Okay, thanks, guys.